When I was away, I know John talked about emptiness, and in the way of these things, this afternoon I was rummaging around because I needed to think of a subject for the next newsletter. I was going through some papers, and I came across this story which is about emptiness, which some of you have heard, and some of you won't have heard. But I think it's a wonderful story. It really illustrates the reality of emptiness, and it also unexpectedly deals with the matter of life and death. It sounds really serious, I know, but it does. Certainly one of the attractions, if you like, if it is an attraction, or one of the benefits of this practice, is that we don't shy away from asking questions about life and death, which a lot of us avoid, and in that avoidance, it definitely conditions our behaviour, I think, or will. But anyway, I won't talk more about it, but I was once asked what emptiness is. Emptiness is a poor translation of a Buddhist term, shunyata. And you will have heard of this when we were chanting the sutras: form is emptiness and emptiness is form. It's the real mantra: form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Emptiness has no purpose, if you like, or whatever, without form. And form has no possibility of being alive without emptiness, because it would just be concrete. So if somebody asked me what shunyata was, and I said it's like a pregnancy. It's like a potential out of which everything and everything possibly will manifest. So just as we say right view is no view, because no view allows all views, emptiness is said to be the true form precisely because it has no permanent form and can manifest as any form. So I'll stop now and just read you the story. I'll try and not fall over my teeth. I'll take my glasses off. And think about what this means about life and death as I read it. A man is walking along a mountain path in Japan and comes upon a small hermitage with a large temple bell suspended from a simple wooden pagoda. The bell doesn't have a clapper, but is struck on the outside, much as one would strike a gong, by a small log suspended from the pagoda by 2 ropes. Admiring the excellence and obvious age of the engravings on the casting, the man hears the footsteps of the temple priest and turns to ask, "How old is this extraordinary bell?" Touching his palm to the massive casting, the priest responds, "This is about 500 years old, but," pointing to the black void within the bell, "the emptiness within is eternal." He then proceeds to swing the striker gently back and forth, holding it lightly but firmly with his 2 hands. Then he releases it, letting it swing freely so that it strikes the metal casing. The deep and even tone spreads out over the whole area to the mountains across the valley, beyond the tops of the cedars and back to the very foundations of the hermitage. It seems as if the bell had rung itself. Even the leaves seemed to stop rustling in the wind to listen to it. Smiling, the priest looked at the man and asks, "Now, please answer my question. Where did that sound come from? From the metal casting or from the emptiness inside?" What do you think? Where did the sound come from? The metal casting or the emptiness? Both. Okay.
Dong.
Dong, okay.
Both and the hearing capacity of the visitor.
Oh, the hearing, that's interesting. Yeah. That's a bit like, what's the phrase about a tree falling in a forest?
If there is nobody to listen to the sound of the tree fall, is the sound there?
Is the sound there, yeah. Yes.
From Berkeley.
Okay. And the question then arises, does the sound come from the metal casting or from the emptiness inside? Where does your life come from? Does it come from... Is your life being lived, or are you imposing a life on it? What's the source of your life? Are you the source? Okay, that's good. It's the same question. The metal casting of the bell is form, and the hollow centre is emptiness. The bell's function, the ringing of its unique tone, is located neither in the casting nor in the emptiness of the centre. Without the hollow interior, the bell would be a metal slab that might clang, but would certainly never emit music. On the other hand, the hollowness within the casting will produce only the rushing echo of silence. For the bell to sound, both form and emptiness are needed. The bell is not just the metal casting, it is the casting and the emptiness within. When the metal eventually corrodes away and disappears, the space, the emptiness is enclosed, will still exist. No longer the space within the bell, it will return to the boundless space from which it had originally come when the bell was cast. The space within the bell's enclosure is in itself the same regardless of whether the bell encloses it or not. But for the period of time in which it is enclosed by the bell, its relatedness to the casting makes it functional. So what's that saying about your life? I'll read it again. The space within the bell's enclosure is in itself the same regardless of whether the bell encloses it or not. But for the period of time in which it is enclosed by the bell, its relatedness to the casting makes it functional. So the space becomes functional only because of the bell. And the bell only functions because of the space. So, what happens when you die?
I give up.
Personally, you mean when you're dead or just now? You won't have much choice when you're dead.
You never know.
Does this make sense? Or am I, yeah, it does. It's not the right word to use. Does it resonate?
Can I maybe just answer something that, because your question is how does it relate to your life?
Yeah. Oh, how does it relate to life and death?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those conditions that gave us life have to somehow function together perfectly. And when one of those conditions change, you know, cells get older, illness comes, maybe sanity drifts away. Conditions change, so you know, your sense of being changes as those conditions change as well. Comes and goes.
Yeah. But how does it relate to form as emptiness and emptiness as form?
In the same way as spell, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
It is hard to explain, isn't it? But the bell makes a unique sound, and each of us manifests a unique life. That unique life, as when the bell corrodes, as we decay sounds a bit of a horrible word to use, but as we dust to dust and ashes to ashes, that uniqueness that uniqueness no longer manifests, but the conditions under which uniqueness in the first place arises remain the same. The space remains there present, the emptiness remains there present for each new unique manifestation. And equally, maybe I'm embroidering now, I'll stop. Has anybody got anything to say to make it more? Can anybody clarify it more?
For me, it seems that, in one sense, looking at birth and death, I have my own personal birth in which this form appeared, was given a name and grew and came to know the world. But it just didn't appear like magic, it just wasn't there. There was all sorts of whole infinite array of cause and effect that led to that. So in an absolute sense, there isn't a me there. And for me, I'm talking about what this means for me is that part of my practice would be to not take death too personally.
Okay.
In the same way I wouldn't take, don't take a birth personally. And I shouldn't really have made a practice about not taking death personally, because I'm just going back to the elemental conditions that produce what I think is in me in the first place.
Yeah.
But I'm the absolute, but I'm also this.
Yeah. So it's a bit like the waves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Waves on the ocean, each one's individual, but they're all part of the ocean.
Yeah, it's like that, you could say that sound of the bell is also the leaves vibrating, it's the valley, it's the monks, it's the whole thing in another sense as well.
Thanks, Keith.
It seems to me that it kind of makes your own individual life matter both more and less at the same time.
That's a really good way to put it, isn't it? Yeah.
So,
Sorry, go on.
Yes, part of my job is a lot about sort of life and death, and one of the meetings I was in yesterday we were discussing a death that arose from a whole load of seemingly chance but awful sort of combinations of circumstances, and this person died that shouldn't have done, and they were elderly and had dementia and they were probably near the end of their life, but it was a horrible sequence of events. And yes, at one level that it's kind of life returned to life, but it's also about, well, actually what do we do in future to stop that happening from somebody else, and it's the two of them working seamlessly together. And it doesn't, like in that meeting to say, well, actually it doesn't matter, would be completely inappropriate, because actually to that person, their family, it does, at the same time as it not.
So, it's what Maezumi Roshi replied when he was asked what was important. He said everything is important and nothing is important simultaneously. So, one of the difficulties when people first come into the Buddhist tradition are the Buddha's understanding of the three marks of existence: impermanence, no self, and dissatisfaction are the keynotes of existence. And I think emptiness, the idea of shunyata, the ground of our being, that is a nice phrase. It's not really appropriate, but I like it. The tender indifference of the universe. The tender indifference of the universe is another paradox. That the idea that this self, this I, this skin and bone that we carry around and that we feel we would desperately like to be solid and maybe even everlasting, when we hear that in fact it's that the sense of it as having any permanence as a delusion can evoke real fear. And I think that's why emptiness as a concept is a really difficult one to really embody.
I know for me, if I can just add that, when I first came to the practice, that idea of emptiness and the absolute true nature, whatever you call it, was something I thought I can own, I can have that. There's something I can.
You can
look at this and that is just as elusive as everything.
Sure it is, yeah.
It's quite, I know that quote from one of my favourite books, and I think it's from Cameron's The Outsider or The Stranger, and it's said by a guy who's about to face death, he's about to be executed, and his fears of death and how he sees the priest, and he doesn't want that, he just wants to see the situation as he sees it, tragic, and he never did it anyway, it wasn't like that, but it was what it was, and it was, I think it is quite relevant, so for me anyway.
Thank you. Anyway, I rather like the end of the story, don't you? When the bell corrodes, the space is still there, ready for another bell.
Or something other than a bell.
Pardon?
Or something other than a bell.
Or something other than a bell, yeah.
I understand something.
Yeah.
Last week we were talking about hashikiness.
The shakiness of the mat,
Shakiness.
yeah.
You know, how it comes to be this. But it's struck me more and more that there's all sorts of examples in this space about how this space is empty, and yet it's a zendo.
Yeah.
But the zendo has a certain structure and form. It's here, it's clear enough, but it depends on a lot of conditions coming together and a lot of people doing different things to set it up to make it work.
Yeah.
And on a Saturday afternoon when we've done, and all the mats go away, and the yoga class comes in.
It's a yoga studio.
It's a yoga studio, or it's a dance class, or it's it's emptiness revealed in a different way because the conditions are completely different.
And people used to make pens in here. Did anybody? I'm sure Alan would have watched the wonderful series on the art of Japan. Really lovely, and the artisans who made things. He was talking about Japanese painting, and it's not a concept that we really talk about in the West, but how important in Japanese painting and Chinese painting, of course, is the space. The artist is really aware of the space. It's not just the form. The space also carries a value, and it's thought about.
You get that in sculpture, they talk of negative space.
Pardon?
In sculpture, it's the negative space.
The negative,
kind of
yes, that's what. What's the woman who did the inside casting of a house? She does the inside casting of the underneath of tables and chairs.
Was it Rachel?
Rachel Whitreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does castings of the space rather than the object. Fascinating. I'm happy to end. If anybody has any wonderful empty comments to make.